Allow me at this point in time to invite the Honorable Rajiv Kumar, the current chairperson of AWEB, to come to where I am standing to perform a very important task, which I will not spoil by explaining right now. Thank you.
His Excellency, Minister of Home Affairs of South Africa, Motse Awaledi, His Excellency Mr. Mosotho Moepa, Chairperson, Electoral Commission of South Africa, Vice Chairperson of AWEB, and fellow Vice Chairpersons, Commissioners of present here and of South Africa. Honorable Chairpersons, Presidents, Commissioners, and senior delegates from member election management bodies and partner organizations of AWEB from Africa, Americas, Asia, Europe, and Oceania. Distinguished guests, officials from AWEB Secretariat, my colleagues from ECI, ladies and gentlemen, friends from media. Very good morning to all of you. And a big namaste from India. It's a matter of great privilege and honor for me to join you all in this magnificent city of Capetown at the opening ceremony of the 5th General Assembly of the Association of World Election Bodies, AWEB. This is my first visit to this beautiful country and to see at first hand the great strides made by South Africa in every field. I would like to thank Honorable Minister of Home Affairs for gracing us with this glorious presence today. India's relationship with South Africa is perennial, fundamental, and unique, as it is rooted in collective experience and cumulative strength of both our people, who emerged victorious from the historic struggles against colonialism and racial discrimination, and have succeeded in their march to democracy against very heavy odds. There were some momentous journeys that are defining moments in the histories of our two nations. The journey of Indians as they settled in South Africa since 1860s. The life-changing train journey of the father of our nation, young Mohanchand Karamchand Gandhi, father of our nation, on June 7, 1893. And the journey of the great leader Nelson Mandela to India in 1990. His first visit abroad after 27 years in imprisonment. For me, this visit is nothing sort of a pilgrimage, and I feel very emotionally and spiritually elated to be here in the land of Madiba and Mahatma, both great leaders who held similar views on democracy. Capetown is perhaps the most conducive place for a positive discourse of a co-shared commitment of all stakeholders of electoral democracy. South Africa itself is a beacon for young democracies world over as to how electoral democracies help channelize disparities, cultural diversities in a constructive manner. It validates our belief that democratic methods, of which free, fair, transparent and inclusive elections are a cornerstone, is a precondition to the peace dividends which follow resolution of conflict and strife in a country and in the region. We are always reminded of fundamental precepts that Mahatma Gandhi said, and I quote, "My notion of democracy is that under it the weakest shall have the same opportunities as the strongest," unquote. Excellencies, both India and South Africa are the founding members of this apex organization. We have always visualized AWEB as a powerful cementing institution that brings EMBs across the world together for a very fruitful discussion. Your Excellencies, allow me to briefly walk through the remarkable role AWEB as a group has played. Despite wide disparities and differences in our respective constitutional systems and regulatory regimes that governs us, by continuous consultation, we have been able to not only map the emerging challenges ranging from non-inclusivity, social media, technology, false narratives, voter apathy, lack of resources, and even legislative regulatory regime inadequacies, but have shared our experiences and responded resolutely to the challenges. The COVID challenge, in fact, can be said to be such major moment where learning from each other, we ensured that the electoral process run smoothly. We proved that disenfranchising even temporarily is not an option. That is, what challenges handled under India as chair of AWEB is an added point of satisfaction. More than 500 international trainees benefited by way of AWEB webinars when the elections were conducted during the COVID. Elections are the cornerstones of the democratic polity. Elections shape up the will of the people that constitutes the base of political authority for any democratic government. These threshold concepts embody the understanding that sovereignty belongs to and flow from people of the country. We pay at this moment the homage to the great men and remind ourselves in gratitude who have nurtured the democracy. At this juncture, I am reminded of what great leader of all times, Nelson Mandela, spoke of equality of opportunity in democracy. I quote, "Democratic and free society in which all persons live in harmony and with equal opportunities, it is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve, but if need be, an ideal for which I am prepared to die." That is the spirit which we need now for the democracies in view of the challenges which were just mentioned before me also by the Vice Chair. Friends, democracies across the world have shaped up their constitutional, legislative, and legal framework for inclusive and accessible elections. EMBs of different countries, with a view to fulfill the mandate for inclusive and accessible elections, have evolved their operational framework, strategies, and action plans to identify and obliterate barriers, facilitate and maximize the participation of all categories of voters. I am also reminded of what Martin Luther King once said: "If democracy has to have breadth of meaning, it is necessary to adjust inequalities." Friends, adjusting inequalities in today's context means inclusive and accessible elections at every level, starting from enrollment to the polling, and especially for women, persons with disabilities, senior citizens, young voters, and marginalized voters, besides other special groups. If we continue to take care of these groups and make them participate in the democratic process, I am sure the challenges which we face will automatically get answered to. At this stage, please allow me to briefly touch upon the challenges which all of us are facing. Today, democracy and the EMBs face challenges both around the globe and at home. Challenges emanating from overcoming polarizations, populism and its consequences, economic inequality, immigration, challenges of sustaining multi-ethnic democracies, alleged backsliding of democracy, democratic discontent, and all of these have become a matter of great debate. A series of dialogues are in process, and the agenda from afternoon in this assembly also, I am sure, would very meaningfully concentrate on this. The pressures from within involve the regulation of political parties, regulating political finance, controlling use of money power, and adequacy of legal and legislative instruments for enforcing codes of conduct, ethical behavior during election. Excellencies, leveraging of social media for voter connect has been a very positive feature. But at the same time, misuse of social media platforms for disinformation is a real challenge before the EMBs across the world. Technological integration has progressively enhanced efficiency, efficacy, transparency, and integrity of electoral process, but a lot more needs to be done, and we need to learn from each other's experiences in this field. ECI is leading a cohort on electoral integrity, and the first thematic international conference on empowerment of EMBs is going to be held very shortly. The AWEB has tremendous potential to address the challenges I have just summarized and many more through knowledge sharing and on regular basis in a structured manner. Simultaneously, we need to revisit the parameters for assessment of democratic indices being used by certain international organizations. Delivering judgments on election process of a country through ratings against unilaterally devised and unvalidated parameters often tend to cause more harm to the cause of democracy in the respective countries. Friends, electoral management designs vary country by country. No two approaches to electoral management are alike. EMBs across different countries possess varying degrees of autonomy from government, expense of remit and powers. Notwithstanding the design, the EMBs have to demonstrate neutrality, impartiality, and ensure the essential aspects of free, fair, inclusive, accessible, and ethical participation. Sanctity of elections and purity of election process is perhaps the only answer to whatever challenges we are facing today in terms of the declining democracies. So far, we are able to deliver the free elections and to find the true expression of the will of the people in the franchise. I think democracies would continue to perform well. Therefore, independent functioning of EMBs with full empowerment is critical to free and fair elections. And it is essential that EMBs are equipped and empowered to handle unforeseen situations through provisions for plenary power. Peace, dialogue, participation and true expression of collective will of people is a hallmark of democracy and shall always be an effective and inclusive form of governance to meet the aspirations of citizens. Friends, we need to come out with standard protocols, benchmarks for various aspects of election management, which may be known as AWEB global standards, and will help EMBs to work towards achieving these goals by, say, what should be the infrastructure at the polling station, what should be the accessibility initiatives, how do we increase the participation of women, PWD, senior citizens, marginalized communities, tackle various malpractices, control election-related expenditure, increase transparency, security, tackle misinformation. If we develop all these benchmarks, they could be known as AWEB benchmarks, and each country, each EMB may in its own way attempt to achieve that. Friends, with these opening remarks, I hereby declare the opening of the 5th General Assembly of the AWEB. I congratulate and welcome my extremely experienced colleague, His Excellency Mr. Mosotho Moepa, Chairperson Election Commission of South Africa, as incoming chair of AWEB, and thank him and his colleagues for organizing this meeting. Excellent arrangements made for our visit and the warm hospitality, making the delegations feel comfortable at home in South Africa. We convey our good wishes to Honorable Chairperson, Electoral Commission of South Africa and fellow commissioners for all the success in their new assignment and the endeavor to further promote and enhance the activities of the association. I commit ECI's full and unequivocal support in further fostering the vision and mission of AWEB and in extending close and full cooperation to the EC of South Africa and other members of the EMBs. Whatever is left to be done and whatever you decide in the afternoon and later, we would all be willing to contribute in terms of the manpower, in terms of the technology, in terms of hosting any event, whatever the AWEB and the Secretariat you collectively decide. I would like to end by quoting the famous lines by Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I wish all the very best to all the EMBs, AWEB, for the very fruitful deliberations now onwards. Thank you.